Hello, you're listening to FC Popcorn, a film companion original podcast. I am Pratyush, and today I'm joined by the managing editor of Film Companion, Dipanjana, and the contributor of Film Companion, Sagar. And we're going to be talking about queer cinema, queer streaming, queer storytelling, what's right, what's wrong, what we love, what we hate. Sagar, let's start with you. What is a depiction of queer cinema that you really hold on to, that you really cherish, that you're really thankful for?
I was thinking of Aligarh actually, which, for a few reasons. One of them because it did come out at a very politically charged time and it was sort of responding to that, but also because it was sort of trying to contend with a person who's trying to not distill themselves, like condense themselves to a label. It was somebody who was trying to resist that, and then he's sort of forced to, contend with the idea that because of the kind of stigma that he faces, the kind of oppression that he faces, he has to sort of politicize his identity, and it's sort of that I think I held on to. It's also atypical because it is about a man in his 60s as opposed to a lot of the stories that are coming out now, which are obviously love stories and rom-coms tend to be about people who are in their 20s. And it was, I think it's also a masterful film. Like I just love the filmmaking in it. There's a lot of it. There's Manoj Bajpayee's wonderful performance, of course. So that was a film that really touched me. There's a couple more. There's some in South cinema as well.
That's actually very interesting because what you raised the point about his age, because I've been thinking about the fact that so much of our queer storytelling is about queer youth, youngish people, because so much of queer storytelling is also about wanting them to come out, wanting to sort of situate that moment of despair. Also, ideals of beauty and whatnot. Yeah, Aligarh really did was a bit of a rupture in that sense because it not just spoke about queerness, but queerness of a certain demographic that we don't generally see. That's actually fascinating. Yeah.
Pratyush is being polite about this because Pratyush has very strong negative feelings for Aligarh, which he is not voicing at this point because I think he just respects you too much, Sagar.
No, but I would love to. I would love to
You
hear
will.
it because
you will. I'm sure you will. I think it's like bubbling up inside him.
Yeah, we're warming up. We're warming up. We're warming up.
Yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there. Respect will only take you so far. After that, it's all downhill. Take it from me. I work with him daily. No, but no, it's. I do want Pratyush to put his point across because I think he has a really interesting take on Aligarh. And see, at a very basic level, these stories, which have any kind of queer representation and responsibly done queer representation, somewhat sensitively depicted queer characters, have been so rare in Indian entertainment that it's worth keeping in mind that even when we're being critical about it, it's not from a position of non-appreciation. We're all well aware that these stories are a long time coming, which is perhaps why our expectations from them are somewhat higher as well. But about the youth factor, like I do think that the thing is that I think everybody likes young people, but like with queer young people particularly, it becomes much more important to focus on the youth part of it because what we have inherited through stories loudly told and subtly hinted at, whatever folklorish kind of inheritance, modern inheritance that we have of queer culture, it is of a sad ending. It is about loneliness. It's about unhappiness. It's about being abandoned, ostracized, that sort of stereotype of a story. Spinsters and queer people, same thing. You are going to live alone. You are doomed to sadness. So the moment you take an older person, that heartbreak feels a lot more final. When you do it for the young person, it carries the hope of maybe it'll get better. Maybe, the what ifs are a little more positive feeling than the what ifs for an older person. Speaking as an older person, though, being lonely is not a bad thing. It's a good thing. Anyway, Aligarh, come, Pratyush, unleash.
See, I mean,
Embracing myself.
primarily I thought it was, to put it plainly, a boring film.
There we go.
So it's okay. So with Hansal Mehta, there's this desire to want to love his movies because they're doing such fascinating things in such troubled times that just the idea of it is sometimes enough for people. And we hold on to that idea while watching the film. So for the longest time, the first few years after watching Aligarh, I was honestly a little skeptical about even voicing my apprehensions about it because I thought the idea of the film is so sorted, for lack of a better word. Why would I want to puncture holes in that? But at the same time, I thought this idea of this weepy, homosexual, only man, which he again stretched forward with his short film in Bai, the modern love anthology, really grates after a point. And the silence, the slowness, the way the dialogues were spoken, the dialogue of love being a four-letter word, all of this felt, on second viewing, far more postured than felt. And so I was never being able to actually fit into that film. I was constantly fitting into the idea of that film. And the same thing happened even with Shahid, even with Amerta, even with Faraz, for example. Like, you want to like the film because of what he's doing, you know? He's doing something that is not, the liberals are not doing, which is that he's trying to humanize even the villains, right? He's trying to humanize the terrorists. But at the same time, he's doing what the right wing will definitely not do, which is humanize the people who need to be humanized, who are not been humanized through cinema. So I always felt Aligarh has that, there's that tension in talking about Aligarh, where if you talk criticizing the film, people will think you're criticizing the idea of the film, and that's not what's happening here. So that's why I'm being a little careful in the way I'm talking about this, vis-a-vis in the edit room, where I'm just.
No, and care is, like I said, I mean, care is very warranted. I personally, like, you know, I really liked Aligarh for everything that I wanted to do. The intentions of that film are solid, which is true of most of Hansal Mehta's work, and the intent, I think, particularly where we are now, the intent of a film, the intent of any artwork is very important to keep in mind when thinking about an artwork, because it occupies an ideological, political, and cultural space. So the intent of these films and these works are bang on, but it's just that I think with different kinds of lived experiences also, the depictions and the layers of sensitivity they change. Like, for example, there was this short film called Sisak, 2017, which got a lot of love, right? And I don't know, have both of you seen? I think Pratyush has seen Sisak. Looking from his face, I can tell. Sagar, have you seen Sisak?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so it's on YouTube. It's a short film. It's about two guys on a train. There is not a word said. And one of the things that I loved about it when I saw it the first time was that one of the men is ridiculously good looking. The second thing that I noticed, this is something that I've always loved about gay love stories, beautiful men. It just, for straight women, oh my God, thank you so much. Anyway, one beautiful man, the other nice, but one really beautiful man. But more importantly and more seriously, what Sisak gets, which honestly has been missing from most love stories that I have seen in the 2000s, really, they don't do anything. They barely touch, but you fully feel the longing. And that sense of we can't do anything other than look at each other. That sense, the film gets really beautifully. Within that, you can have, you know, quibbles about some amount of overacting and some amount of tropiness. Yeah, it's all there, undoubtedly. But it's taking an everyday scene. It's the night train. It's like one of the last local trains in Bombay, and these two men sitting in a mostly empty compartment, but it's not completely empty. They cannot give up their inhibitions. They cannot forget that there is a gaze that is constantly there, whether there is a person in that compartment or not. And just that desire to be able to do something and yet not be able to do it, to be happy with looking and be unhappy that it's not enough to just look. That sense, that kind of chemistry, I think, is central to making a love story work. A film like Aligarh didn't have longing for me. Like, that's centrally, it lacked that that energy for me. That was what I think for me kept me from feeling for the character as much as I would have liked to.